coming up in this episode, be aware, political deepfakes are here. AI Al Michaels is set to cover the 2024 Olympics. And what are pink slime sites? And then we'll wrap up with our null, not null recommendation section.
Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice, but here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Sarah Kimmel, and Bobby Davis.
Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm Kevin Doyle, and this week I am joined by Sarah Kimmel and Bobby Davis. Make sure to stick around until the end for our AI-generated weekly themed outro song.
Okay, so political climate is here. We are in an election year, and AI is going to throw a huge wrench into all sorts of things. So here in Utah, our governor is Governor Cox. I will say I did not vote for him this go round, but he's not my favorite person in the world.
But he is your guy right now, like it or not.
He's our guy. He just got reelected. Like he won at least the Republican vote or whatever. Anyway, but right before this primary election that just took place like a week or so ago, this tweet came out that had video of Governor Cox admitting that he had some fraudulent signatures for when he was running for governor.
Basically just a lie.
Right.
It's not even like, okay.
Yeah, so it's a full-on AI video, and I will say it's a Twitter account that released it, but people who are opposing him have been had retweeted it and things like that.
Of course.
Right, of course they did.
You want to believe, right? When you see something that supports your position. This is why this stuff gets shared a lot. And this is the problem with it, right? When you see something that supports your position, you're going to share it.
Share,
just like, yes. Yeah. You're like, got him.
Perfect.
Even on Twitter?
Great. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an AI-generated video. It's not Governor Cox saying the things he's saying. And it's just kind of leads into this whole, what can we even believe with our own eyes and with our own ears, especially when we're getting into such we're a super divided nation. There's a lot of vitriol on both sides. And, say a video of Trump or a video of Biden comes out that has really horrific things that they're saying. And, it's going to get shared pretty widely by either side, like you said, because I am for, this is really good for me. I'm going to share this. So, I mean, what can we do about this? What do you guys think about? I mean, we knew this was coming. We've talked about AI deepfakes for a while.
So I'm looking at it right now. In your opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, how convincing was this?
It's not a great deepfake for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like it was refuted pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, you can see there's oddness with his mouth and
I agree. It has uncanny valley, but I would put it's above a 5. It's a more convincing than not, I think, to a lot of people, because this is the perfect scenario for this. It's 6 seconds of video, so it's very short. So the uncanny valley, you don't have to dip into it too much, right? It's it's a very short period of time. It says one sentence. So in passing, the average person is not going to see that's fake.
Yeah.
So you live in Utah. What was the reaction at first? Did everyone think he had cheated in the election, or?
Yeah, I don't think it was spread wide enough for there to be some widespread reaction to it. I think it was a little late in the election. I think most people were going to be voting for him anyway. So I think it was, kind of either they didn't see it or ignored it. But I mean, I could see this on a larger scale. Like you said, most everyday people don't even understand how these things can get generated. So
they don't even know this exists.
Right. So they see a video like this and they'll take it at face value.
Because that's been the bar before, right? It's been most people have been they can there was a point where we could trust images, right? And then people are like, I think most people now like, well, we can't really trust an image, although some people still do.
Right.
But the bar has been like video. The video bar has always been really high. It's like, oh, it's on video. It's kind of like, unless it looks really fake, it's kind of true. I mean, there's like crazy UFO videos that people have believed that are obviously fake, right? But people do believe them because, again, it supports their position. They want to believe, right?
They want to.
So,
believe. X-Files.
Call back to X-Files.
Truth is out there.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. But but they do. It supports your position. So it's kind of like you look past the. I think it's a subconscious thing too. Sometimes you just kind of look past. You're like, oh, that supports my position. Share.
Like.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. What is the remedy here? Obviously, we can't stop deepfakes being created. Should the person that disseminates it get in trouble?
Yes, the creator. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it'd be similar to maybe like a copyright strike, where if they are disseminating, or like not a copyright strike, I'm talking about defamation. So
defamation, libel, slander, whatever that is.
Right. You could definitely be liable for that. Now, tracing the source of that is hard, but with defamation per se, you don't have to like have created it. You just have to share it with a new audience. Mm-hmm. So that is definitely up for, so if I shared it, I could be liable for defamation on that front. And I think
do you like that? Is that too much overreach?
No, I do like that. Like, because it really puts the onus on me. If I'm going to share something, I need to confirm that it is a legitimate source before I share it. Mm-hmm. And I think that onus needs to be put on you. And really, you're not going to feel that weight unless there is consequence to your actions. So
I also think platforms are going to have to do something about this. While some on both ends, while the creation platforms are trying to do something, right? When you create something on a lot of these, they are watermarking them. If you upload something to any of Meta products now, and it's obviously been created by AI, it tags it as being made with AI. It puts a little thing at the bottom of it. I think they changed that tag recently. It's not made with AI now. It's like something else AI, but it tags it that it was like somehow either manipulated or generated with AI. But then also, the platforms themselves should have to police those things in terms of like not being responsible for what's posted there in this because of section whatever it is, 246 or whatever it is. Like not going into that, but more along the lines of just ethically being like, if people are going to post AI content, we need to make sure that we are flagging it, and the platforms are actually responsible for flagging AI created content as well.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say that. So how do we discern between like I'm putting this out there, it's a joke, versus a meme, or versus like I'm trying to destroy, Governor Cox's career here?
Right, because I agree, intent matters, right? Yeah. This is clearly the intention here is clearly not to make a joke out of this or say something funny. The intention here is to derail whatever, derail his campaign.
Yeah, because they had the presidents playing Call of Duty, which is kind of funny. Barack and, I don't forget who it was, Trump and Barack. I forget who the other president was.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
But maybe they shouldn't even be doing that. I mean, they haven't consented to that. They didn't do that. So, I mean, the same rules could probably still apply,
right?
Jest or not.
Yeah, so I could see where maybe some of the laws would need to be changed with defamation as well, because with defamation, especially for a public figure, it has to be with malice, which means not necessarily that I'm like, malice. It's more of you have to know that it is false when you share the information. So
if you believe it's true, it's okay.
Well, exactly.
Well, yes.
That's the thing. So if you know that it is false and you share it, then you can be liable for defamation. But so with this, like, I could hide behind like, I didn't know it was fake. I thought it was true.
I agree. And that's why it has to change.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right. Because you have to, you're then not only, you have to be more responsible than just being like, I believed it. No. Right. You have to have said, no, it's from a trusted source or whatever. I did due diligence. Yeah. You're going to love my not null this week, Sarah.
Okay.
It is directly tied to this. So anybody who's interested in this, definitely stick around for the not null because it's tied to exactly this.
That's awesome.
So is his name Brian Cox? What's his name?
No, it's Spencer Cox.
Spencer Cox. Does he look like Lex Luthor to you? Just wondering.
Yes.
Supervillains all run for office. We do
Like
know
I
this,
said,
right? This is a thing.
He's not my favorite. Like, he's the one behind the whole like social media ban for kids in Utah and stuff. And so I'm no friend to Spencer Cox.
If you want to admit it here, Sarah, you can. Is this your handiwork?
Did you make this thing?
Did you make this? I mean, let's just go on record right now. If you want to clear your name, now's the time.
Come clean.
Shoot. Shh. I didn't want to be sued for defamation.
Don't worry, you won't. The law's not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently. I'm good. I thought it was true when I made it.
So the impact was negligible to him as a candidate, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
But we're worried
little.
about in general that where someone could put one out that's a little bit better.
I also think it's difficult to measure whether it even was difficult to, if you can say it was negligible impact, because there's probably still people who believe this is still true.
Oh, for
they saw it on video, even though it's been debunked by now. They're like, no, it's true. I don't care what you say now. I've originally believed it. I refuse to change my position. Yeah. It's true. The guy can literally tell them, I made it. Be like, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
that's true. I said that.
I saw it. Yeah. Because like originally it was pics or it didn't happen. Now it's like pics. Did it happen?
Right. Now it's video. It didn't happen. Now it's like, it doesn't matter. Like,
I don't know.
Unless I'm there talking to you, did it happen?
Right. Exactly.
So outside of politics, what other deepfakes do we worry about? Like, what are you guys worried about?
Well, celebrities and like, inappropriate content with celebrities.
Sure.
I do think the ones about inappropriate, I've seen like just regular people or kind of famous people on Twitter get, they show them in compromising positions and they didn't happen. Deepfakes that aren't real, but still, that's kind of embarrassing, especially to ladies.
Oh, for sure.
I think those people should get fined. And I guess the more and more I think about it, you should definitely be fined for this. I don't know if you go to jail.
Yeah.
You should be hitting the wallet for it. Because I'm worried about the government always overreaching, like where they just ban everything. Every video share no longer because we can't determine what it is, or something that truly did happen and they'll say it's a fake and then you can't share it unless you go to jail.
Well, I think that's the other thing. I think if we would have, if this kind of technology would have been around 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I think we would have heard Trump say that he didn't say what he said on the bus.
Right.
Because you would have been able to, a real video, you would have just had somebody just deny it.
Agreed.
And that's the same for any politician. Just picking on that one, but on this big...
The NBC...
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
the court on...
we don't need to repeat it.
I'm not going to repeat what he said.
Please,
I'm definitely not going to repeat what he said. Yeah. But he would have denied saying it and just said that it was
100%.
AI.
That's exactly what came into my head as well. The same thing.
Just an example. There's lots of others, but that's just an example that comes to mind.
Yeah, but exactly. Like now you'll get to a point where like, me and my court cases and everything, we're always talking about that. But where like, if you have a video of a dude like robbing something, they could be just like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't me, it was AI generated. Like even video proof evidence could be not enough to overcome reasonable doubt in a criminal case. Like we could be ignoring everything we see.
That's it. We're going to be in court next examining hands because we know the AI can't get their hands right. We're like, well, that hand he's got 7 fingers. Look, that's not real. That's an AI generated hand.
Forensic people saying this video is original or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, video forensic people have got to have their careers are going to be booming at the minute. They are absolutely loving it.
I'm the AI video forensic guy.
It's going to be a thing.
And the chain of command, or the
custody.
Thank you. I'm like, I just said that wrong. Chain of custody is going to be super, super important. Where I got it from the security footage here, and then it came to here, and then it came to here. And we were just kind of, briefly chatting about this before we went live on stream. But with the Karen Reed case, there was Sallyport video of her car coming into the police station, and the video was mirrored. And so during the whole testimony, they're like, see, nobody goes near the taillight that's broken. But the taillight that's broken was actually the other side because of the way the mirror looked. It looks like we're looking at the passenger side, but we were looking at the driver's side. And it wasn't until the defense came up and said, hey, so you said this is a true depiction of this? Why is this word backwards? And he's like, oh, well, it's a mirror. And he really? Like you just spent your whole testimony talking about how this is the one side and it's mirror. And that's not even AI generated, but that's still like when you're manipulating video to show something that like, I can't believe my own eyes. Like you were just telling me this and I was looking and that's not what's the truth.
Some of these they're really good. I mean, you've seen them on YouTube too, the kind of the talking heads. They're getting better and better and better at this. The latest generation of these combining something like 11 Labs with, I forget what the video caricature thing is, but there's an avatar you can have that's kind of out of the box that will say whatever you want it to say now. And making one of those is pretty simple. I put myself into one and made one of myself, and it's pretty convincing. I mean, even for me, and I'm like watching myself and I'm like, wow, that does sound like me. And it does look like I'm saying that.
This was 2 years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, probably, where we converted one of our YouTube streams to Japanese. And so
I think you told us about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks super legit.
Yeah.
Well, legit enough. This my point is always the shorter the video, the more legitimate it can come across as. This 6-second video can feel this way because it is only 6 seconds. There's not enough time for somebody to kind of put 2 and 2 together and really start looking at it. Because when you really start looking at it, it looks kind of fake-ish, right? It's like, but when you don't and it's in peripheral and you're scrolling, he said this. And I guarantee there's still people today who believe he said it.
So the reason I wouldn't believe he said it, even when I saw it, is because he's holding a microphone on stage. I'm like, he's got to be smarter than that. He got elected. Like
he's not announcing
maybe
this
not.
to the world.
I don't know. We've seen these guys do some crazy things.
You don't know him like I know him. No, but the other implication is you were talking about like, what else where this can go wrong. The other implication is, I don't know if we talked about this or if it happened before like our podcast really started, but there was video of a manager at Google like talking about like some changes to YouTube, and a lot of accounts got hacked because they thought this was a legitimate video of somebody at YouTube explaining this thing, and you have to do this and this and this in order for like your channel to like get to this next like thing or whatever. I can't remember the exact details of it, but it was like a total scam but you're like, oh, this is like the manager at Google telling me to do something, so I'm going to do it.
YouTube has a problem with these. They had a bunch of Elon Musk ones for a while. They were running a whole bunch of channels with Elon Musk's where telling you to invest in a certain crypto, and you were basically depositing money into invest in crypto, and that money was just disappearing. They were just stealing it. Yeah. But the videos were pretty convincing, and all they did was they put them on legitimate accounts. So they put them on accounts that were stolen. They rebranded the accounts. So let's say the accounts had 100,000 followers. They rebranded them as Tesla. Right, so they changed the name, the logo, and then rebranded and re-showed this live video of on YouTube, like continuously 24/7 until the account got banned, which was usually days, by the way.
Right.
In that time, they've made a fortune. And then there was another thing. I remember seeing a bunch where there was a Metallica scam too, which is like such a niche-like thing to get into. But they were scamming and putting up like live, like Metallica saying they're into Bitcoin. It was the same scam with a different set of people. But the video was kind of convincing.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Man, you deserve to lose your money if you're blaming Metallica for financial advice.
Hey, people are into what people are into. This is the thing, right? But this is the thing when people think about this idea. When you're into a thing and you have trust with somebody, that's the thing. People trust who they trust. If you trusted Elon, you'd have jumped on that thing. If you trust Metallica, you'd have jumped on that thing, right? And I'm sure there's hundreds of others. I probably saw that because I'd watched some videos before, and that's why it came in my feed. But I'm assuming there's a Taylor Swift version. There's another, whoever you put trust in, you take that, and it like if you can convince somebody that's that person, they're gonna make a fortune.
During the Johnny Depp trial, like there was like a live Johnny Depp interview, and like I was like, oh, interesting, and I clicked on it. And like it was a YouTube video, but I was like, oh, this is clearly a scam. But like for people who don't know, they're like, oh, live Johnny Depp interview. Like it was totally not live. It was like from years ago, but like it was crazy.
Speaking of AI generated voices, we've got a deep fake of a different type. Al Michaels is being deep faked, except they're doing it on purpose. So if you're going to watch the Olympics this year on Peacock, you're going to be able to look at highlights or recaps pick the sport you want to recap of, and they'll use an AI Al Michaels and generate the recap specifically for the things you want to see. Now, what's cool about this is they actually approached Al Michaels, who does Thursday Night Football. He did Monday Night Football. He's famous for saying, "Do you believe in miracles?" for the miracle on ice in the 1980 Olympics when the hockey team beat the USSR. Russia. Unlike our soccer team that lost this week in Copa.
Didn't even make it out of the group stage. Just want to point this out. Didn't make it out of the group stage. Thanks, Alexi Lalas, for putting them in the final. Yeah. Because that's what he predicted.
But AI Al Michaels will be your customizable highlights for the Olympics. So, Sarah, you're a big Olympic fan. How do you feel about AI generated content for all of your highlights now?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Although I will say maybe for the casual viewer, this might be a good solution. Like, I am the kind of person who will watch every single event and like the whole event. Like, I don't want the at the end of the day where it's like, oh, let's check in with our field event. And like, they show the like last throw of the discus or something like that. I'm like, no. Show me the whole thing. So I am like super into that. But what I really, really love is commentators. Like, I love the commentators. I love when they're like, oh my gosh, like if you look at, oh my gosh, Rowdy Gaines for swimming, like he will flip his lid during a race, like just totally flip out. And then like Otto Bolden and Sonia Richards-Ross on the track and field stuff, like you get to know these voices and you love like exactly their reactions and how they're going to talk about a specific thing. And they like bring in so many details like, oh, he's doing this and doing that. And like, and this is going to be a PR for him and whatever. So I love all of those like really intricate details. So I hate that they would lose some of that like excitement of like the in the moment of the event. Like if they want to put together a compilation with the actual commentator, like saying stuff like.
It's a lot of work though.
Well,
I think that's the thing, right? Yeah, it is the work.
Well, I mean, they're commentating live, so just pull that out. And then maybe the AI in between, like, okay, now let's go over to the track and field or whatever. Like, not the actual, like, as Sha'Carri Richardson is crossing the finish line in the 100 meter, they're like, oh, and then here's Sha'Carri Richardson crossing the finish line for the 100 meter. I mean, it's not going to be super robotic like that, but it's not going to have the like soul and inflection. Yeah.
All right, Kevin, you're a geek. You're nerdy. You're into this AI stuff. I got some specific questions about this for you.
Go on then.
I think I haven't asked you about this, so this isn't a bit. I really want to know. Like,
okay, go for it.
I think that you would want not just Al Michaels, but you want a selection. I want to pick different people I want to hear about. Mm-hmm. And you may not want to see American sports winners only like it will be on NBC. You're just like, show me the European team. Show me the team England and give me the English guy. Who would be the English guy to cause the Olympics?
You're giving me I don't know who it is, but you're giving me a pet peeve right now about NBC's coverage of the Olympics.
We're it's America, the Olympics. Man. That's all
it's the Olympics, right? It's a world event. The entire world is in this thing, right? This is the only country in the world I guarantee that only covers their own athletes. It's so bad. I will watch any other country's coverage other than the US coverage because it is that bad. I'll be like, you guy will literally finish last and they've got the camera on him. I'm like, you do know the race ended up that end, right? Like, you're watching this guy back here. I'm like, why are we talking about this guy? He's got no chance. Like, what's happening? It's so bad. But I will say about like Al Michaels, this might be the one and only time this ever happens because I have a feeling it's going to be so bad that we'll never see this again. This will be the one and only time, and it may not even last the whole Olympics. I have a feeling it's going to be that bad. And also, I'm wondering why he's agreeing to it. I'm guessing two things. One, he's getting paid. right? He's getting paid for doing nothing, by the way. But I'm okay with that because he's licensing his voice and his likeness.
Right,
it's
like
not that
the
he did
Scarlett
nothing to get there.
Johansson thing. Like,
exactly.
They
it's not that he
asked him.
did nothing. Yeah, he didn't do nothing to get there. He's earned the right to be paid for the AI. I totally get that. So I understand his reasoning there. I also understand that he's licensing his likeness and voice to NBC. So there is a trust factor there. There is a trust factor that they're not going to have him say stupid stuff when, they're not going to have him do meme stuff and I'm assuming part of the agreement is like, don't do stupid stuff with my voice. I would hope that's the point. But I think he trusts them not to anyway. So I think that's part of his deal there. And I don't blame him at all. I just think it's going to be terrible. Yeah.
The problem is like exactly that. I don't think people are going to tune into it because it's going to be boring. Like if you're just the casual viewer of the Olympics, you're not going to watch this because it's not going to be super entertaining. You're going to maybe do the first one and you're like, yeah, that kind of sucked. Like I'll either not watch the Olympics or I just won't watch this because it's really boring.
So do you think, Sarah, that they missed opportunity by not using Scarlett Johansson as the voice of the Olympics?
Yes. She should have been the voice of the Olympics.
She's the voice of every other AI. I mean,
Might as well.
Yeah.
We're paying her $1 billion anyway, so we might, ChatGPT's doing it. So I'm sure.
So, Kevin, we have Lou Diffie is one of the track and field announcers, and he does have an English accent. So you've got...
Yeah, but he's only going to be talking
Lou
about Americans. This is the problem. This is the problem.
Well, there's that. But...
Yeah. Well, it'll be like, it'll be the 1,500 meters or something. And like some dude from Kenya is going to win it. And we'll cut to shot put because some American's going to finish fourth. Like... You know what I mean? It's that kind of coverage that annoys me. Like, I cannot be dealing with it. I'm like you, Sarah. I want to watch the whole event.
Exactly.
I want to watch the whole event,
I say, like,
regardless of who wins, regardless of who it is. I want to watch the whole event from start to finish. I want to watch the guy that's going to finish last and the guy that finishes first.
Exactly.
In all seriousness, if they can get this and nail this, I do think this opens up the door for other things. And so there are announcers in the past like Howard Cosell, Harry Carey. And I watched the Tour de France, believe it or not. I watched bike racing, and it's a 5-hour, it's kind of a snooze fest, but there's this guy named Phil Leggett.
I watched the bike racing in the Olympics. That's fine. I get it.
But Phil Leggett is the voice of the Tour de France. And I can't imagine when he's up in age now, ever watching a Tour de France where he doesn't do the voice of it. Because it doesn't sound like it when they bring in other people. And it's like, where's Phil at? Is he sick? I mean, he's like in his 80s, but come on, man, we need you to do it one more year. And so, like, I think this is an opportunity to bring Harry Carey or, someone else, Howard Cosell or someone to another event, and maybe they can voice over something. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll have the same flair. You're right. Do you believe the miracles of the Miracle on Ice could not be created with an AI?
The AI wouldn't have said that. And if it did, it would feel forced. It would feel wrong, wouldn't it? It wouldn't feel, it's not human like to you know what I mean? And because even if, let's say an AI did have a line like that, it wouldn't have the same impact because it isn't human. We wouldn't have really cared.
American, and it's Russia, and it's like the 80s, and we're about to shoot missiles at each other, and they're the dominant in hockey, and we somehow win this game, and it's like that was a moment, Of course, all the great sports moments I have are American moments, so like.
Of course.
They are if you look in any fact book here in the US. Just
Jamaican bobsled team. We all love the Jamaican bobsled team.
Because Disney made a movie.
There was a Disney movie. So, But we do celebrate other athletes sometimes, Usain Bolt, those guys like that,
Oh, yeah.
But I just wondered if you could get the British guy, whoever calls the Olympics. I'm sure there's someone on BBC or whatever who's the voice of the Olympics in England. Or maybe they just watch NBC over there. I don't really know. I can't imagine that's what they do.
Right.
So,
They definitely don't.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with a food product called pink slime?
I'm familiar with the Ghostbusters 2 pink slime.
I was going to say, not the Ghostbusters one. Okay, so there is a food product called pink slime. We got the nickname pink slime, right? I think so. A reporter coined like a nickname pink slime.
Right.
So basically, it's like it's a meat byproduct that was used as like a filler with ground beef. And this hit the news like back in the mid 2012, 2010s, I think somewhere early 2010s, right? Yeah. Where it was like, hold on a minute, my burgers aren't all beef. Like, no. They also have this byproduct filler in them called pink slime. So the reason like this has been co-opted to mean something else now, the reason being that it's basically something claiming to be something else. That's kind of the analogy here, if you want to call it
filler. Yeah.
It's the filler. Yeah. So this has now been co-opted into a term called pink slime sites, or pink slime websites. So the news here, and the reason we're talking about this is because they have now outnumbered actual legitimate sites. So we'll talk about what's a legitimate and what's a pink slime site. So legitimate, like a local news site is what we're talking about here. So think like your, I don't know, WCBSFox74.com or whatever it is, right? Your local kind of news site, or your UtahMorning.com news site, whatever it is, right? There's a bunch, think of a million different names. They're all generic, they all have these web pages. So a legitimate local news sites are unfortunately like on the decline, right? We're losing, the study done that we're losing 2.5 per week of local newspaper sites at the moment. That's crazy, like across the US. But overall, the number of local news sites is staying about the same. The reason being they are being backfilled with something called a pink slime site. So what's a pink slime site? A pink slime site is a website posing as a local news site. They're often funded by a partisan group. They generally push an agenda, left or right, or some other kind of agenda. Doesn't matter, but they generally have an agenda. And they often hide their funding, they hide their ownership, they hide their agenda. And the articles that are on them are either, these days, AI created, just junk, or they repost like stats from states and local stories. And I'm going to show you some killer examples of this, because it's like, when I went down this rabbit hole of like discovering this, I'm like, wow, this is crazy, crazy stuff. So these now outnumber actual legitimate local news sites. Somebody counted, so NewsGuard, who is a reputable source, reported there are now 1,265 pink slime news sites compared to 1,213 legitimate local news sites. So they now have overtaken it. They've tripled since 2019. This is becoming like a more and more and more thing. Seems like eventually this is all we're going to end up with.
Oh yeah.
Including some that they found were actually owned by or ran out of Russia, which surprise, right? Russia pushing an agenda in the US, like that's really shocking. Exactly. So I thought I'd show you some of these because I thought this was interesting. One that came up an example was this one, Chicago City Wire, and I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, here's the thing: looks like a legitimate news site, right? So if your first barrier to when you're looking at something online is that it looks like a news site, that's no longer a factor in your trust. You should not, because it looks like a news site does not mean you should trust it.
Right.
And if you look at some of these stories, then I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Look at this. So,
and it doesn't look overly like saturated either.
No,
yeah.
No, I do have ad blocker on, by the way, too. But
there's that.
That might look some stuff.
It might,
but that might have been some
look different. Yeah.
But here's some telltale signs. Look, so it has a not a very well written headline, kind of a terrible headline. It's published by Chicago City Wire, so there's no reporter attached to this. And then you start reading the story, and it has all of these links down here, all of these obviously generated school names, and it has this kind of article, which is just a stat. This is just a stat and a graph, and then look at the rest of the article. It is just a number of schools listed with, in this case, they're talking about Native American population in those schools.
Yeah.
And you just keep scrolling down. It is just junk. It's an absolute junk article.
Yeah.
Who's the woman in the picture?
Yeah, I know.
The woman... So the one in the picture, if you look, here you go. It is J. Sterling Morton, freshman center principal. So a principal of a school. And actually, that made me think, because here's this story. Look, you're going to love this. This is New Public Arts Installment. Look, and it has, again, by Chicago News Wire. This is Director of Special Events and Permits, LinkedIn. Look, I don't think it has any relation to what the story's even about. And the story is clearly AI generated. It's just junk. It is absolute junk. But it's presented as Chicago City Wire. So I'm like, who is this? Who's Chicago City Wire? So go to the About section. And they have a section down here. And this kind of proves the point that this is a pink slime site. They talk about their agenda, their core beliefs. They believe in limited government, constructive role of free market. This is a basically libertarian kind of viewpoint here. And that their funding comes from, in part, by advocacy groups who share our beliefs in limited government. This is not news. This is propaganda.
Right.
presented as news. So I started looking at where this kind of came from. And here's some other sites, by the way. If you look down the bottom here, it's a whole bunch of these. This has like 30 odd sites down here listed in the other publication section. If we look at one of these, it's a carbon copy of that site with, again, local news on it with the exact same stuff.
Do they have any from North Carolina? Any ones we can look at?
Yes, there is. So, funny that you ask.
Funny you should ask.
Funny you should ask. I found Metric
Your
Media,
check is in the
who I thought was different. I was like, oh, this is another company doing a similar kind of thing. And I was like, oh, select your state. Cool. We can look at North Carolina and see what's here, right? And I was like, oh, let's go see if they have a local one for us. We'll do North Carolina, and then we'll go down to the bottom here because there is a Winston-Salem version, Winston-Salem Times, and you click on it. It's WinstonSalemTimes.com, and look at that.
That's Alan Joynes right there, the mayor.
This, by the way, I did not know was related to this at all. I found these through two totally different places. This I found just through a link. This I found through this Metric Media site. Yet clearly they are related. This is clear. It's the same designed website look. Clearly it's related. And again,
management system, yeah.
Exactly. Same CMS they're using, look. And it's the same thing. Again, published by Winston-Salem Times, look.
Right, I was like, okay. Look for Lehigh.
They've used the same. I'm sure there is one. They've used the same pictures, look, for all those stories that they used. And then I started looking and I noticed, oh, look, there's a person here too. An actual person wrote this story. Like, that's interesting, isn't it? I was like, oh, okay. So what happens if you Google that person?
I'm
what do you think happens?
Is it a real person?
It is not a real person.
Oh, look at that. North Rally today.
North Rally, New Mexico, some Catholic Tribune thing, Federal Newswire, South Marquee.
Wow.
This is not a real person.
No.
NPR actually did a story on it, so I found her name.
In Todd, North Carolina.
Right. I found a story on her here. Look, somebody from NPR was actually asking about this person because they'd noticed too that this person came up in these stories, and they're like, consider Kane County's reporter, Laurier Lubbert, 15 years ago, reporter from Virginia. Pilot had the same name. Lubbert has no account on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. Unusual for a reporter. This is not a real reporter. It's fake. It's fake. Everything on this site is fake. The entire thing is fake, pushing an agenda. But here's what I looked at too. This one has a different list of articles, and also their about section is also different.
Sure. So
they're using the same content management system, which is highly suspicious.
Sure. The
same template, same CMS. Yeah, this one has a different kind of agenda attached to it as well. This Metric Media LLC is a non-profit, but yet they own all of these like local news sites.
Right.
It's like, my point here being, the internet today, you cannot believe something that is a news site, news in quotes. You have to be more diligent and check your sources here. This has to be a thing we have to get better about, because the problem is we're in a time where we read the headline and then we share the information. So coming back to your story of earlier with the AI generated content, this is the same thing. It's just in a written format and en masse. There are thousands of these. Don't forget, they found 1,265 of these pink sites. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen stuff, and this was years ago too, where like I would come across, and I don't even remember where, but like maybe in Google News or something like that, or maybe it was like a footer of something, but I'd see like Lehigh is voted the best city in like Utah or whatever. And I'm like, oh, really? That's cool. And like a click on it and it's a junk site. And I'm like, oh, like they just changed the name of the city and like push that out, you know, like Winston-Salem is voted the best in whatever.
And right. Which one of these is close to you? Which one of these sites is close to you?
These are your only options.
Probably
Davis Times. I like that
probably
one.
Utah Valley. Davis is too far north.
I was just thinking about my last name.
Yeah. This one, Utah Valley Times.
Utah Valley, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, okay. I just noticed that the North Carolina one had the "Where's the cheapest gas?" That's the same story.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. Yeah. A lot of these stories are the same. Yeah. That's the other thing you'll notice too.
Utah kids. How much did the women's team? How much did the men's team spend?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. You'll start noticing these, and you're like, "Oh, look at that."
Yeah.
It's just junk.
Yeah,
it's just,
for sure.
and I'm assuming these must be. I mean, these are generated, right? I don't think there's too much content here for people to be doing this.
No,
this is just this is on autopilot. This says every so often publish a new story and publish about it what you want. I think here's our agenda. Here's what we want you to write about.
Yeah.
Please write it.
Yeah.
And Bobby and I were talking about this earlier. Like, well, what does that story have an agenda about? And it's like, it's not a singular story that has to have an agenda. It's a collection of them. It's a collection that then publishes on a website that has an agenda that then is en masse on 1,200 websites that has an agenda. And now all of a sudden you start reading this stuff. And if you start seeing enough of it, you start believing what it's about.
Yeah.
If there's a fact in one of them that you believe is trustworthy, then you believe the other thing that is also
the one thing I would
as a fact, but
sort of push back on this is anyone really reading this? Like, is any humans consuming this? Or is everything just bot to bot and the internet's going to collapse because no one's really using it?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about the stats on this, but I will say, I guarantee you people are looking at and sharing these stories in the same way that somebody looked at and shared Sarah's video from earlier. If it supports your position, you're gonna like it and share it. That's just how it works. So if something's on here that you like and you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if this one here about cheap gas, people did say, oh yeah, look, if somebody in Clemens is like, hey, don't go to that thing at gas stations, Mom, go to the one over in Winston-Salem. Like, it's cheaper. Right. So I could definitely see this getting shared. And by the way, this is just like the Regulatory Commission picture. Like, it's just
it's just random. Yeah.
Well, and
because AI chose it.
Yeah, to your point, like, I don't necessarily think every article here is meant to be consumed. I think they'll have like some articles that they mean to share out, but the rest of the site gives legitimacy to that one article. Because
definitely.
you look at the one article that has the agenda and like, and that's the one being shared, where you're like, oh, what kind of site is this? Like, is this legitimate? Is this a legitimate source? And then you look around, you're like, oh yeah, there's other articles here. It looks legit. Like, so this seems like a legitimate source.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think it's, the problem obviously stems from the fact that local news these days, I don't know if you've seen local news these days, it's pretty bad.
Well, go to Lehigh Free Press. That's our local news.
How do I spell that?
Lehigh, L-E-H-I, sorry. L-E-H-I, Free Press. Like, yeah, this is our legit local news site.
Okay. But look how like similar it looks to the other side too. Look, it's like, this is what gives it credibility.
Font at the top, man. Look at that.
Yeah. Other than clearly this stands it apart from all the others.
Yeah.
But you're right. This is similar kind of content too. Look, really, when you think about it, we're talking about the number one story is like who was crowned Miss Lehigh 2024. You know, it's not breaking news. But if you've watched this kind of like local news or local newspapers or anything, they've cut back to a point where they're not really reporting on news anymore. At least here, definitely here, they're not where we are. Yeah. They don't have reporters really anymore. They're not going out and reporting on news. We were talking about earlier, Bobby and I, like, let's say that an accident happens. Bobby was like, well, they'll report on the accident. Like, yeah, they will, but they won't send like a news crew there anymore. Right. It'll be a bullet point on the screen that just says, oh, by the way, this road's closed because of an accident.
Right.
Aliens they don't landed. We don't have no one out there, though.
Yeah, aliens landed as a scroller across the bottom. Yeah.
I actually saw that in the New York Post where they said that 12 people saw aliens at this outdoor festival.
Oh, nice.
And not a single picture. I'm like, come on, man. Everyone has an iPhone. Shut up.
Yeah. Like, anybody would get that on video for sure.
What are we talking about, man?
Yeah.
So the fact that local news is like not very good and kind of closing down, obviously 2.5 per week. Are shutting down like local newspapers and local reporting. So it's created like a void, and obviously they're filling in the void with whatever they want to fill in the void with, whatever you want to say is your agenda. And I'm saying this isn't just right, this isn't just left, this isn't just either. It's not all political either. Right. There's people with other agendas. Let's say that you're into like pro farming or something. They can have one that has an agenda, right? It's like there can be any kind of agenda, and you just push that through news.
Right.
What's the end game for this? So think of this forward. So like if they're doing this to run ads on it, which a lot of these sites are running ads on it, Google Ads, it seems like if you're running a legitimate Google ad campaign, you're overpaying because there's so many of these zombie sites out there, pink zombie sites are running ads on them.
Because it's not the point. It's not about ads anymore.
But what I'm asking is like, do you think the consumer of the people that are buying ads are finally going to say, how much are you charging me for this? And how many eyeballs actually are there? Like, and does that eventually where the internet just eats itself? Like where Google
sure, but I don't think
company,
that's the point of this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to make money through running ads by having these at volume. They're
just
trying to push an
opinion.
agenda.
Yeah,
Exactly.
opinion.
Exactly. If you
But people have to read these things, though.
They do.
Don't read them.
They do, but
I'm a different
do.
audience, maybe. But
yeah, people do. That's the thing, and it's been proven. Like if you keep telling somebody something and you get your news from one singular source, you will end up having that same opinion. You will be swayed of it, even if you're not initially. You will be swayed into that. That's just how it works. So it's psychological. They understand that.
I always tell people to always type in URLs. Don't click on links.
Amen.
Just type them in, 100%. And then if you hear of a news story, like I was telling Kevin when we talked about that earlier, that I saw a news story on Twitter of all places where people get their news from Twitter, and it was like Sunday about Joe Biden's going to be in hospice by Monday, discussing the day performance, and I'm like, he's not going to be in hospice, man. I mean, he could walk on stage. I'm not saying he's the pinnacle of health, he's not going to go run a mile or anything, but like at the same time, he's not dead either. And so we do have
hospice,
these. Yeah, exactly. That's usually you got a week or so.
Right. You're on the edge.
You're on the edge. And this is the problem with social media as our news source too. Like there's just people will post anything. The deepfakes for the governor, and got my friends on the Republican side will say things. It's just like, come on, man, we won the debate. It's okay. Just say good. You don't have to make up other stories about it.
Right. Exactly. You don't have to tell untruths about it.
You don't have to make anything up. It's all right. And I think in general, you shouldn't
Truth
make stuff up.
Truth is better than fiction, right?
It always is. It always is, But I'm just wondering, like in general, like the internet in general, when Google's out there creating AI links that describe websites, and these websites suddenly can't get ad revenue, when does this website as we know it just utterly collapse?
I think we've almost passed. Yeah, I think we've almost passed. It seems like it's mostly bots
right now, especially on social media.
Yeah, I think we've passed the point in time where we have the data to actually even train an AI from a clean data source. Because don't forget, when we train, let's say when OpenAI scraped the entire internet and trained their LLM, because we know that's what happened, right? That point in time, there was no AI generated content on there, so it was a clean environment. Now it's not. So now it's like you said, it's feeding itself. The AI is like creating content that's now feeding back to the AI. I don't know what the outcome of that is, but it can't be good.
Here's my wild prediction. We can come back to this in 2 years.
Okay.
It's going to be a new top-level domain.
Interesting.
Like a trusted domain or something that has to be
vetted.
What, like non-AI generated or something? Is that what you're saying?
A new top-level domain in the internet, and it's going to be segmented off because it's going to be junk over here.
Interesting. That's a good thought. And I feel like that's maybe even a good solution to the problem. But we need to figure out what that vetting process looks like.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
because OpenAI is just going to scrape it again, by the way, just so we're aware.
And we want to make sure actual people are getting vetted properly,
and that's the point, right? Who polices it? That's
right.
And we're never going to be able to agree who polices it, because somebody's going to say you can't have Truth Social on there. Somebody's going to say you can't have Instagram on there or TikTok because of China or whatever it is.
Right.
It's going to be there's a million reasons for stuff that can't go on it, and it's like it's a problem.
It's going to be called Internet.
I like the idea.
Internet 2. I love it.
Web
2.0. Well, there's already been Web 2.0.
Yeah, we'll be at Web 5.0 by the time it comes out.
Yeah, it'll at least be Web 4. right? We kind of have a failed Web 3 with crypto and everything. So time of the show where we talk about our knows and our not knows. So this week I'm going to have the pleasure of giving you the not know.
I feel like I'm attending a college lecture right now. So
this is very much college lecture-like. So in everything that we've talked about during this episode, we've talked about a lot of stuff that, identifying kind of fake news, if you want to call it that, fake media, fake whatever it is, fake social media posts. I came across this thing probably a few months back, and it's a method. It's an easy to remember method for trying to discover and trying to recognize truth in something that's posted online. People use this I should say colleges teach this and reporters use this when looking at sources. So this is a proven method. It's the simplest one that I found. I've seen some other ones that are like pretty detailed, but this one's the SIFT method. It's called the SIFT, the 4 moves. SIFT standing for stop, investigate, find, better coverage, and trace claims. Pretty simple stuff. The first one being stop. If you read something, stop. Don't immediately share it. Don't immediately believe it. Don't just read the headline. Actually read it. But stop. Think. Have a second thought about it before you either ingest it or you share it, and think about where it came from. Investigate the source. Is literally thinking about where it came from. Do you trust the site that it came from? Yes or no, basically. It's pretty simple. Do you know the site that it came from? If somebody sent you something, are you familiar with whatever it was, WCBSFox74.com, whatever it is? Like, if the answer is no, you can then go find. They call it find better coverage. I like find alternative coverage. No. Just find if it's somewhere else. Go to a site that you do trust to try and find the same news story. And is it legitimate? Find it from a bunch of different places. Does it actually make sense? And then finally, the most, like, if you need to go further down the rabbit hole, tracing the thing. So if a story uses quotes, go find the original quote. If it talked about a Twitter post, go read the original Twitter post. See who it actually came from. Go look at the original story, because reporting is based on less. It's not always opinion. If you're reading a story that has facts in it, fact check it. We should all have a responsibility to look at this stuff before we share and ingest and reshare, because it becomes like, even after we've read it, it becomes part of our kind of knowledge base, right? We say, well, I read something about that. That happened. Well, did it? Yeah. Just because you read it doesn't mean that it did. You need to go, we should be responsible for checking our sources and our information before we go ahead and one, believe it, and second, share it.
I think we need to put like an American flag behind you now, Kevin, and you're telling the American people, it's your duty. Yes,
it is your duty. It is all of our duties. Here's the great thing. Just reading it doesn't have to be a thing. There is a course.
Oh, there's always a course, man.
There is a course, and it's free. And it's free. And it's great. It's 2.5 hours to 3 hours, so it gets pretty in-depth. But you can actually learn the whole thing in detail. There's some colleges that make students take this course. Totally free, Creative Commons. You can go read the whole thing. Gives you more details around like sources you can look at, and some of the things techniques you can do, and gives you more detail around all the steps. I'll definitely link this up.
All right, man. So when I watch my Al Michaels coverage for the Olympics, I'm going to sift every one of the things he says.
Yes.
Well, and that's actually what I was going to say too, like earlier in the podcast, is I think what like the solution to all of this is better education to the general public. And this is a really good way to kind of educate the general public about like, oh, okay, if I'm looking at something, it might not be true. Here is what I can do to like figure out if it's true or not.
I think I'm not tooting my own horn, Kevin, but I think I do this by default. Sort of. I'm not sure I do every
you might have used
thing.
it. And I was the same way. I felt like I did some of this already.
Yeah.
But this had like a thing that like, firstly, it's like I didn't always do it.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't like I would just like take something at face value sometimes if it was from a source that I trusted. Like, and I would take it at face value and be like, oh yeah, but maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have looked at alternative sources and alternative things.
So the moment I hear something, you're in mixed company or whatever, and there's someone's talking about whatever, and I feel like it's outlandish, I get my phone out and I'm always hitting like the major news site to say, is this on the front page?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to quit listening now.
Yeah.
right. Because you realize, oh no, this is just junk.
I'm not going to go out and say, you liar, that's not true. Right. I'm just going to go, whatever, man.
Well, but that's half the problem, isn't it? Because I'm in your shoes too. Like if that happens, I'm never like, oh yeah, you're full of junk, whatever. Yeah. Like I'm not just going to, because you don't want to get in the argument.
Nah.
Right? You don't want to. It's like, what's the point? You're not gonna convince the person. I mean, but maybe we should. Maybe we do have the responsibility to actually say, no, you're full
Biden's
of crap.
not going to hospice. He's not.
Right. If somebody told you that, maybe we should tell them, no, that's not true. I don't know. Maybe that's a step past SIFT.
Well, and what I like to do too, I like how you changed the find better coverage to find alternative coverage.
Yeah.
Because like when I see something, but it's from like a really one-sided site, like I know this site leans this way. I'm like, I want to see what another site is saying about the same thing. And I know that site leans like the other way or something.
Definitely.
Like
I do that all the time too. Like, believe it or not, I mean, I may lean one way or the other, but like I always want to see the opposing view. Correct. It helps frame your argument. If you're going to argue with somebody, you need to know the opposing view. We also shouldn't argue so much over things because we get in these one-sided camps and we can never see the middle. Sometimes it's like,
I'll also say, so second part of my Not Null is ground.news, and I've recommended this before, and the reason being that it presents news from both sides in one article. Okay, you got a null this week, Sarah, then?
Yeah, I'm so frustrated this week, Kevin. So Karen Reed, I literally just talked about this case.
Yeah.
She, it was a hung jury. They came back on Friday saying that they were hung, and the judge was like, keep going. And then like at the end of the day, they went home for the weekend, and then Monday came around. They still said they're hung. They were given an instruction like, hey, you really need to like work this out and figure it out. And then they came back and still said that they were hung. So mistrial was declared in the Karen Reed case. I fully believe that, like, and I came into this case knowing nothing. I usually come into these cases not really reading anything beforehand of like what's going on in the case. I want to see the case as like a jury would see it. And I mean, there is not even proof that he was hit by a car, let alone her car, let alone proving that she was driving her car. Like, there's so much reasonable doubt here that like I am just like, if they had come back guilty, I would have been like, I have no more faith, faith in the justice system at all.
Well, I'm guessing that is one thing. The justice system nearly worked.
Nearly,
it nearly worked. It didn't convict her, but it didn't also.
Are they going to retry her? Do you think, or do they just let it go?
Well, so the prosecuting team, like the state or the Commonwealth, has said yesterday that they are planning to retry. But at the end of the day, the lead investigator of this case, I mean, and I can deep dive into this case, believe me. But the lead was rehomed, we like to say, because they rehomed their dog, they rehomed their cell phones, they are now rehoming Trooper Proctor. So he was relieved of duty yesterday. There's a federal investigation into this investigation. There is, and so he was relieved of duty. So that might throw a wrench into things. They have I hope so. Like, so I just don't see how they can try this case again. There is literal reasonable doubt in like every corner of this case. And so it's just ridiculous. So anyway, I was really hoping for a not guilty verdict on Monday. So my null is the hung jury in the Karen case.
That's it for this episode of the Not Null Podcast. Thank you for hanging out with us until the end. If you could do a couple of things, please let a friend know about the podcast and leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to this podcast. You can also drop us an email. Where can they drop that email to, Sarah?
The Not Null Podcast at AOL.com.
That's it. And we will see everybody next week.
Towns, news fades away. Pink slime sights moving, led astray. Partisan whispers fill the air. Fake local voices everywhere. Pink slime creeping in the night. Truth and trust losing their fight. Pink slime, real voices fall. Fake news answers the call. Pink slime. Foreign hands hidden in disguise, sowing seeds of mistrust, lies. Communities torn, hearts in dismay, as genuine news slowly fades away. Pink slime creeping in the night. Truth and trust losing their fight. Pink slime, real voices fall. Fake news answers the call. Pink slime. trust.